Good morning, WTU. It's your founder, Phil Monk. I haven't spoke to you for some time because I'm still convalescing basically from Know Your Roots and the campaign season that we've just had. It's definitely taken its toll on me and I'm not able to do a great deal. I'm just doing a little weekly update, just try and touch base with you all, keep in touch, hope to keep you motivated and activated. I've got a few thoughts really, a bit of a ramble today. I don't know if you saw yesterday, there's an MP from New South Wales in Australia, and she yesterday took a bill for the full legalisation of cannabis, the cannabis market, and the decriminalisation of all drugs, which I thought was amazing. I did share her video and it was inspirational to hear politicians speak like that. And I can only hope and pray that we eventually get some politicians with such forward-thinking and pragmatic policies as are being put forward in New South Wales at the moment. Many places are talking about the decriminalisation of all drugs, or drug users really, because it's the drug users that are criminalised, not the drugs. So a lot of places are talking about decriminalisation, which would be a great first step forwards. I hope we see that soon in the UK at the very least, because any drug use should never be a crime. So yeah, I keep hearing about medical cannabis, which I find quite hilarious. You know, what is medical cannabis? Where does it come from? Does it exist? No. It's nonsense. I think the word's a misnomer. It's a nonsensical term that's been created for their marketing campaign. There being all of these wealthy corporate elites that are all lining up in the backgrounds to capitalise and profit like crazy from cannabis. The same cannabis that we've all been using and campaigning for years are still not allowed and are still prosecuted for growing, possessing or accessing. So to me, you know, it needs challenging. There is no such thing as medical cannabis. There's no such thing as recreational cannabis. There is only cannabis. Some is well grown, some is poorly grown, some is organic, some is inorganic, but ultimately it is all still just cannabis. Whether it's got high THC or low THC, it is still cannabis. They can call it hemp as much as they like. Hemp is just a colloquial term for low THC cannabis. If you were fortunate enough to have a cultivation license for hemp, you will find at the top it states the cultivations for low THC cannabis. It doesn't mention hemp. So hemp is just a reference term that they've made up to distract people from the fact that it's all just cannabis, because cannabis isn't a very palatable word in the UK or many countries, because we've had decades of media misinformation and propaganda conditioning and brainwashing the public that cannabis is harmful. Brainwashing the public that cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug and it will turn you crazy and it is harmful to health. Therefore, the only way we can protect you is by destroying your lives with prosecution if you touch cannabis. Interestingly enough, now if you use their cannabis, you're okay, but anyone else's cannabis, you're still a criminal. I have done a write-up as well, so I've actually printed it so I can read a little bit for those that prefer to watch than read. You know, that medical and recreational cannabis does not exist. There's only those people who consume cannabis for a medical purpose. You know, they use cannabis for to manage a medical condition, and then you've got other people that consume cannabis for many of its other benefits. Many people who use for a medical condition may also use for rest and relaxation, or for spiritual or creative or nutritional purposes. So this binary two categories of medical, recreational is nonsense. Next we'll have creative cannabis and spiritual cannabis and nutritional cannabis. No, it's all just cannabis. So, you know, for example, to really bring this point home, I have been trying since 2014 to obtain a cannabis prescription. In fact, I have a letter from my GMC registered specialist saying that I should have cannabis. It does help me. I shouldn't be criminalised for my practices, by which it means grow your own. And he can't give it to me because of NHS guidelines. Not because of the law, but because of NHS guidelines. So right now, we're being failed by the state and the NHS. So I've been after this Bedrocan, is what I found out about years ago. So for example, there's a recreational cannabis variety we know as Jack Hero. Many recreational, in inverted commas, many cannabis consumers appreciate this strain, Jack Hero, and I had the honour of sitting next to his son when I was on the activist panel at the CBD Hemp Expo. But interestingly, when this strain, or variety, correct me, when this variety of cannabis is cultivated by the Dutch pharmaceutical department, it gets called medical cannabis, okay, and suddenly becomes a Schedule 2 drug. Same for the allegedly psychosis-inducing skunk, yeah, the skunk hysteria that runs all over the UK, pushed by the government and the government's puppet media, or the vice versa, whichever way it happens to be, that tells us skunk will make you go crazy. But then they make Sativex from skunk. Sativex is the medical cannabis product for multiple sclerosis, spasms and spasticity in multiple sclerosis. I have actually tried this. I have to say I found it highly ineffective, and it blistered and burnt my tongue because it contains alcohol. So they're actually mixing a recreational poisonous drug, alcohol, with a homeostasis regulating herb cannabis to make what they call a medical cannabis product. So therefore we've got two very popular recreational, inverted commas again, varieties of cannabis, that they suddenly become medicinal, inverted commas again, when cultivated by government-affiliated pharmaceutical companies. So if a little company set up by a government grow cannabis and they sell it, it becomes Schedule 2 and medicinal. But if we do it for ourselves, to care for ourselves or our loved ones, it's a Schedule 1 drug and we are criminals. So I find that really interesting, something I'd like to challenge in a court of law, and I dare say I will get my chance. If we buy their cannabis through their extortionate pharmaceutical private prescriptions, we're protected from prosecution because we've got a prescription. That makes us a licensed consumer of cannabis, by the way. So where's the harm if we cultivate or procure, we go off and buy from the street, our own skunk, jack hare, or any kind of cannabis? They call us criminals and we're prosecuted. We can have our homes taken, our jobs taken, our freedom taken, our children taken, and all because we choose cannabis to take away our pain, alleviate our symptoms, whatever symptoms they may be. So where is the crime? Where is the harm is the first question. Where is the harm that my actions are causing to others? The law is there to prevent and protect against harm and punish those that cause harm. Where is the harm in my actions is my question, and anyone else doing what I do should also ask these questions. Where is the harm? Well, the only harm I can detect from my studies is the harm to the politicians and their invested interests. Okay, because they're invested in petroleum, alcohol, paper, timber, fossil fuels, everything you can imagine. Their little pension investors all invest in those interests because that's where the most money can be made in investing. So they are now investing in cannabis. So the people making these decisions now have conflicted interests. Even if whatever their personal view is, their pensions will be invested in cannabis. So how can people with invested interests be making these laws up? Laws that make me a criminal for doing exactly what a wealthy company can do. In fact, I don't even do the same as a wealthy company because I don't sell my cannabis. I don't make any profit from my cannabis. All I do is make my life better with my cannabis. So companies can grow and sell for vast profits. People can't even grow for herbal independence and self-sufficiency, which is what WTU is all about. So what is your actual offence? What's your crime? Your crime is not having paid thousands of pounds for your licence fee. That technically is your crime, okay? What is your actual offence? Your offence is the possession or cultivation or preparation or distribution, that can mean sharing a joint amongst friends, by the way, of cannabis without having bought a special licence from the Home Office. So the Home Office has always had the power to give special licences to people for cannabis. They've chosen to give it to certain people and not to others. Technically it's more of a licensing offence, not a crime. In the traditional sense of a crime, there's a victim. Someone is injured, as an injured party, or their property has been injured by the action of an individual. That is a crime. Where is the injured party in this crime? The only injured party, I state again, would be the invested interests of politicians, not just politicians, but judges, barristers, solicitors and police officers. Because through the Proceeds of Crime Act, whenever they prosecute anybody for cannabis or any other drug crime, they also take all their assets under ill-gotten gains. So, I mean, I haven't got many assets to take, so, you'd have a hard job taking my assets because I don't own fucking anything. Very little, the clothes I wear and a few tiny possessions. But for some people, like they own their own house, say, they'll try and take your house. They'll try and say you've paid for your house by growing cannabis. And they'll say it's the proceeds of crime, and they'll take thousands off you given the chance. And those thousands don't go to restoration for the victims, but they go in the pension pots for the police. So they've got an invested interest to come and bust cannabis consumers, whether they're doing harm to anyone or not, because they will personally profit from the process. Which again means we haven't got a fair process. It's not impartial. The police should be impartial in their actions. They're not. Prohibition and the Proceeds of Crime Act stop that happening. So I believe, I've rambled from my speech. Can you imagine not being able to grow your own fruit, herbs and vegetables, or even brew your own alcohol? Could you imagine not having that right to provide for yourself? And can you imagine if it was dictated by law that you can only buy from companies that sell whatever product for overinflated prices? Because that's what's happening with cannabis now. Virtually anyone can grow cannabis, even disabled people like me. It's pretty easy, it grows itself. But so far, only companies that have got the thousands to pay the expensive licence fees and get the right or the privilege to cultivate cannabis to sell to vast profits. So ultimately, there's no medical cannabis and there's no recreational cannabis. It is only the intention of the consumer that is different. And whether they consume cannabis to manage a specific medical condition, or whether it's just to relax and unwind from the demands of daily life, or just to celebrate or mourn the losses, or to supplement their diet because it is the most nutritious herb, I would dare to bet, and the work of Dr. Ethan Russo will help with this if you don't believe me, or even to enhance your spirituality and creativity. Where is the crime in this? So that's the only difference really, is the intention of the consumer. A very other prominent activist, Chris Beard, he stated once, there's only two types of cannabis consumers, those who do and those who don't. And I would agree with that. So basically for decades we've had many governments misinform the people that cannabis is harmful. If you touch cannabis, we're going to destroy your lives by prosecution to protect you. And now they're saying recreational cannabis is harmful, but medical cannabis is somehow safer or different in some way. No, the only difference is that if you can afford medical cannabis, they won't prosecute you. If you can't afford medical cannabis from a private prescriber, you will still be prosecuted if they catch you with it, even though it's the same item. So I would say there's only cannabis used for medical, nutritional, recreational, spiritual or creative or even industrial purposes. So how can anyone ever be charged for cultivating a dangerous Schedule 1 drug? All charges should be challenged, because cannabis doesn't meet the criteria for the Schedule 1 status or the Class B status. The Class B status was done on political grounds. It was moved from Class C back up to Class B, not based on science, fact nor evidence, but political motivations, which comes under fraud, terrorism and conspiracy all over again. There's no evidence for these harms. So my advice to anyone is challenge the charges, demand the evidence of the harms and present your evidence of the benefit. So that's kind of my rant and rave about the whole medical cannabis, recreational cannabis divide. I've also seen yesterday a CBD hemp flower cannabis shop has been very politely busted by the police this time. They didn't come in smashing doors down like they did to the other companies, but they've still come in, Kingdom of Green it might be, they've still come in and they've still confiscated all of their stock. That stock they called CBD bud, hemp flowers. As I've just explained to you, hemp is low THC cannabis, so it was just low THC cannabis flowers. Now technically, under the eyes of the law, or the letter of the law would be better to go for, because the law has no eyes. So under the letter of the law, although 0.2% THC was considered not against the law to possess, cannabis flowers have always been prohibited. And these shops have popped up in what they thought or called a grey area. And they've worked it, and I admire them. I think it's great they've worked it. They've brought some quality assured cannabis flowers, albeit they've had hardly any THC in them, quality assured cannabis flowers to a shop, to their customers, with a traceable chain of supply, all the way back to the seed, right? That protects people. People are protected by that, same as my booze. You know, that's why we don't have home brew like Al Capone days. You go to a shop, you know you're going to get what you get because it's in a shop and you can buy it. That's what these people that have been buying CBD bud have been doing. Sorry, my fucking leftovers. You know, I feel for them. I've never bothered with CBD bud. I'm a THC man. CBD does nothing for pain. It might reduce your pain a bit because it eases your inflammation, but you need THC for pain, and you need high THC when you have a lot of pain, or you become tolerant to THC. So all these people that were using CBD flowers, they've stopped taking prescribed drugs. You know, they've noticed a drop in prescription drugs and also alcohol sales. Okay, two things that politicians are heavily invested in, and they get big bungs, donors, from these industries to keep the status quo in their favour. Not in our favour, but their favour. So now, the police have took the stock from the Kingdom of Green. The Kingdom of Green can now no longer provide for its customers who were trying to be lawful. They want to remain within the law, but they still choose cannabis for their health and well-being. So the police have taken a product off them that they choose for their health and well-being on the false basis it's harmful for their health, for which they have no evidence, because corrupt politicians are lying through their teeth while they are making money hand over fist through medical cannabis companies. My advice to the Kingdom of Green and every other CBD flower seller is get together, all of you get together, make a case, then get your customer bases, right? Contact, reach out to your customers, write back to them and say, look customers, we want to still provide for you, the government are stopping us, so why don't you tell the government that you want us to provide it to you? Stand up for your rights, people. Don't just go, oh no, it's against the law, I'm going home. The law's wrong. Simple as. The law is wrong. To quote the Right Honourable, and the only Right Honourable MP I've ever had the pleasure of meeting or even becoming aware of, is Paul Flynn. And to quote the Right Honourable Paul Flynn, the law is an ass. Yeah? And how can anyone abide by a law that is harmful to your health? Because that's what it is. It's harmful to your health. So keep on breaking this fucking law, people, because it is nonsense. Anyway, that's the only time I'll incite you to commit a crime, by the way. So that's my advice, Kingdom of Green. Get your people. Get to the government. Fundraise a case. Fucking challenge them. They've got no evidence. They've got no right. And unless you stand up for your rights, they will take them from you. As you can see, I get a bit angry about this. But these people now that can no longer go to the Kingdom of Green or any CBD hemp shop, where are they going to go? Where will they go now? I'm not going to say the black market, because the black market is a racist term that I don't believe in. They're going to go to the unlicensed, uncontrolled cannabis market. Or back to their doctor for poisonous pharmaceutical drugs, or back to the pub for booze. Your freedom of choice has just been taken from you, people. You have just lost your right to make your choice for your health. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about it, people? Are you going to sit at home and do nothing? Or are you going to unite, get together, stand up for your rights? What are you going to do? You can see what I'm doing, because I'm doing it as best I can. I can't do much standing up. So, that's my advice to all you CBD flower salespeople, basically cannabis sales, yeah, because you're not selling hemp. Hemp does not exist, it's just a term. It is low THC cannabis sativa that you were selling. Embrace that fact. Don't hide from it. You were selling cannabis. Well done. I wish more people were. And all we got to get rid of is the 0.2 THC cap. Because what a load of nonsense. If we compare it to alcohol, which on a weekly basis causes psychosis across the nation, violence, aggression, depression, rape, murder, robbery, suicide. Imagine only being able to get alcohol-free beer, which is what CBD bud is in essence. You know, could you imagine only being able to have alcohol-free beer? Many people that consume alcohol would disagree with being denied access to alcohol because that's how they spend their spare time. They rest, they relax, they recover with alcohol. So that brings me on. Someone's just commented here, Leslie, which brings me on to the next bit I was about to talk about. Oh no, I haven't got to Leslie's bit yet. This is going to be a long video. Speaking of drug policies and stuff, we had a conversation last week. The Conservative Drug Policy Party were considering or were wanting to contact me for a case study. I discussed this with my team and my group for obvious reasons. I don't like the Tories. They murder people. Simple as that. Yeah, they've killed over 140,000 people through austerity. They're murderers. Simple as that. They should be in fucking prison. But they're not, because they are the wealthy elite and they rule this country. And most people are looking down at the floor, struggling to survive, dead in their brains with alcohol to even notice. So the solicitor hasn't got back to me after I accepted the offer. Quite possibly, maybe, because I'm so fucking vocal and outspoken and I will not be swayed. For one, I won't sit here and call it medical cannabis, because medical cannabis does not exist, people. There is only cannabis, yeah? What I grow, my cannabis, is medical cannabis. It's recreational cannabis. It's spiritual cannabis. It's just fucking cannabis. So I've not heard anything back. That could be because the solicitor's got this virus that's taking lots of people off their feet. Kingdom of Green, Sam Hunt. Kingdom of Green, I think it was. There's also Hemp Elf has had. There's been a few recently had CBD flower companies. Contact them, unite them, get them and their customer bases together. So the solicitor hasn't got back to me, which is very strange, because on our last phone call over a week ago, he implied he'd get back to me very soon. This is quite unusual for him, because normally he replies at very antisocial hours. So I'm suspecting he's poorly, but it could be that the Conservative Drug Party really don't want to speak to Phil Monk or about WTU, because I got too much to say, people. But I'm also planning to make this declaration of non-criminal intent to my local police, with or without the solicitor's support, and also seeking letters of comfort. I actually feel right now I need to prosecute the NHS. I should be making a legal case against the NHS, because I have a specialist telling me I deserve I need cannabis, it helps me, I should have it, but I can't have it. I can't afford the expensive stuff, so I've got to grow my own. So now I risk being a criminal. Now I've run out of my own, I risk the street. So the whole system is failing, not just me. We hear about the dying children all the time, and yeah, they break my heart. That's what got me started. What about me? What about all the adults? What about my children that might lose their dad because of these laws? What about them? They're the bits that we need to hear about. So I haven't got much to update there, other than I'll just do it anyway, because that is kind of the way I'm doing it. But I will talk about the fact that everything that the WTU solicitor is not the WTU solicitor, that's the wrong way to express it. The solicitor who is acting on behalf of WTU, he was hired, the funds were raised and been transferred to him and the barrister, or to the firm, for them to review the evidence bundle that we eventually get together for them. Everything else that Robert has done, telephone calls, meetings, he hasn't written any letters on our behalf yet, but they have been talked about, has been done pro bono in his spare time. Which just makes me wish that if WTU had more funds, you know, we've got nearly 5,600 members in the group now. I know we all can't, but just imagine if nearly all of us were pledging £5 a month into the WTU fund. We could be employing Robert specifically, yeah, to make our challenges. So we've got people in our group, I'm not going to go through names, confidentiality, but I know, because they talk to me, that are all in limbo, waiting for their lives to be destroyed by this law. We could actually be using a solicitor who is a criminal defence law solicitor who specialises in cannabis law, and is willing to challenge the status quo, which is a unique aspect. But we can't pay him because we've got no money. We've got the money for the case review. That's literally it. And I can't help but feel, if we could just see the big picture here, what's 5 times 5 is 25. That could be 25 grand a month, people. that we could be using to pay for proper challenges, for proper fees, publicity, advertising campaigns, to get WTU in the newspaper. There's only one reason we haven't been in the newspaper. No, I'll rewind that, retract that. There's two reasons why WTU haven't been in the newspaper. One is we haven't got the money to pay for it like other groups have. And two, we are very controversial in what we're saying. We are talking about political inconvenient truths. They lied to us for years, in other words. They're profiting it, in other words. And also, they've got no justification in criminalising us. And we seek decriminalisation. The fact that we seek decriminalisation and not legalisation makes us politically unpalatable. Try saying that after a skinful. Because under decriminalisation, now this was great. Yesterday we had an MP from New South Wales. Please ignore my faces. We had an MP from New South Wales, and she discussed her bill for the legalisation of cannabis for adult consumption. None of this medical, for adult consumption. I didn't entirely agree with all of it. Only allowed to grow 6 plants at home, which is nonsense. It's not enough. But they also talked about decriminalisation. Legalisation is what we've had in Canada, which is when they basically create a whole new law book with which to control, punish and profit from the cannabis consumer. In other words, if you've got the wrong strain, prosecuted, fined, imprisoned. If you've got the wrong quantity, prosecuted, fined, imprisoned. If you've got it in the wrong place, prosecuted, fined, imprisoned. That's legalisation, okay? I don't want legalisation. We need a legally regulated market. But decriminalisation is the removal of criminal sanctions for specific actions. So I need a bong, I need a vape, sorry, pain just throws your brain. I wish I could hear what I just said. Can someone tell me what I just said? Sorry, I've lost that. This pain's horrendous. Okay. Basically, if we had more money, we could do more stuff. We could make publicity and advertising campaigns. We could have an active solicitor working actively on our behalves for our members. And aside from that, we could also be doing more to help our members. So I'm trying to think of a way to make some sort of official membership thing. Because we've got 5,600 people in the group. How many are actually active? You know, how many people will see this video, for example? I saw a video the other day that someone liked from last year, and still only less than 400 people had interacted. So the question is, decrim's the removal of all sanctions. So that's what someone was reminding me. Thank you, Adam. You're a good man. Decriminalisation. We need to decriminalise so you remove the criminal sanctions, and that means you don't get prosecuted for having the wrong quantity or the wrong type or anything. I mean, if you're stoned while driving, you shouldn't drive while stoned, simple as that. But I use cannabis so I can drive. I cannot drive without cannabis because cannabis takes away my pain. So to take my licence away for cannabis, to me would be wrong because I've got an advanced driving licence whilst using cannabis. So there are areas that need to be considered. Eviction laws being one of them. You know, I could be evicted for using cannabis. Whether that's changed with a prescription, I do not know. So, I don't know if we could make some official membership thing where we could have official members rather than just a group full of people, which at the minute we've got a group full of people, 5,000, nearly 5,600, which is great, but we could do with a dedicated court, you know, so we know who our actual numbers are of those who are active, engaged, supporting. But if we had the funds to employ Robert, who's the solicitor by the way, if we actually had the funds to employ Robert in a more meaningful way, we could be challenging the charges. So there's several people in our group I know now are being processed. They can't afford a lawyer, they can't afford a solicitor. They will have to be processed by the state-appointed solicitor. The state-appointed solicitor will not defend them. The state-appointed solicitor will defend the state and process them. Big difference. So really we need to have a solicitor that will defend us, not process us. Because only by having a solicitor willing to defend us to the fullest can we actually present the evidence that we need to present in our defence. Unfortunately, these state-appointed solicitors, they will literally process you as quick as they can. They will bully and coerce you and threaten you with 14 years in prison if you don't plead guilty as quick as possible. Basically, it's intimidation, it's terrorism, in order to protect the status quo, because they profit like crazy from the system. So I wish we could make a bigger difference, which brings me on to Leslie Gibland. And many may know I started the WTU Crowd Justice Fund back in April. We struggled to raise less than £9,000. We had 299 people pledge out of then 3,500 members. Leslie Gibland, I'm not sure if anyone knows, so I'll quickly give an overview. She is in exactly the same situation as me, got a different condition to me, but in fact, she's in a better position than me because she had a prescription. I haven't even got the prescription. So Leslie had a prescription for cannabis, which she could not afford to fulfill. So she grew her own. She'd been a lifelong activist, she might have been growing it for years, but she was growing her own cannabis because she could not afford to fulfill her prescription. She got busted. I don't remember the exact details, but she is doing the right thing in my opinion, and she is saying, hold on, this is not just, and I am challenging the charges. And Leslie's challenging the charges, and I'm doing anything and everything I can to support Leslie, which isn't as much as I would like, I have to say as well. I've put my £5 or £10 in the fund because that's all I can spare. I've given what information I have because that might help. But they raised less than £7,000, man. £7,000. But then a big hemp farm that's been stiffed over by the government, they put on a festival and they raise over £30,000. So, well, what that tells me is people like to have a good time. They're willing to pay for it. They don't want to give money away for free, even if it's for a good cause that could even benefit them in the long run. So we need to make a big Canna-Fest. We need to have a Canna Aid. We need to make a festival like fucking no other festivals, all charity-based. All the funds go into the campaign because people are happy to do that. So let's do what people are happy to do. But that one group, we had two people with no support, just the beg of their story, if you like, the pull of their story, and then we had another group with the pull of their story and a charity festival. The charity festival made 30 odd grand. The two people in the most need, whose lives and liberties and homes are at risk, they haven't even made £7,000. Where are you people? Where is the Canna community? Okay, where are you? Fuck. I know some of us are so poor we can't eat. I know that, right? I do not believe that, not just in WTU, I mean across the board, I do not believe that you can't all just sacrifice a fiver. I don't believe it. I know some of you can't. I believe that because I've been that. But I cannot believe that even... It's nonsense. So you're choosing not to sacrifice a fiver or whatever you can afford. That could be £1 a week, you know what I mean? You're choosing not to sacrifice this small amount of money that could support a legal challenge, that could set a precedent, that could allow you to grow your cannabis at home. Do you get that? So, if Leslie's successful, she will hopefully win her right to grow her own cannabis to provide for her own needs, which is all that WTU, it's the essence of WTU, not medical, but to provide for your needs, whatever they are. Yet, the Canna community hasn't supported her. Breaks my fucking heart, man. I wish I had more than a fiver to have given you. I haven't. I live on disability benefits. I know we all live on disability benefits. Callie, anytime, call me, I'm there. But really, we cannot do it alone, is what it tells me. I can't afford it alone. Leslie can't afford it alone. I mean, Leslie and Mark, they've been fighting cannabis prohibition for longer than I knew the fight was on. They've dedicated their lives to it because their lives depend upon it. Same as me, I've dedicated my life to cannabis, fighting cannabis prohibition because my life depends upon cannabis. Or the quality of my life, rather. But why aren't you behind? Why haven't people got behind Leslie, is my question. I don't expect an answer. Ask yourselves, please. Ask yourselves, why are you not supporting the causes in our community that could help bring about the change that we all need? It makes no sense and beggars belief. So yeah, we need some sort of festival thing to generate the money. I don't know. But if you've got the money to pay for a festival ticket, you've got money to put £5 in, for fuck's sakes. Anyway, moving on. I don't know if Leslie's fundraiser is still active. If it is, I would implore you, beg you, and I will, please, right? Please find a fiver, chuck it in their fund, give them a fighting chance to fight this unjust rule and unjust law that's destroying our lives. But while it's destroying our lives, wealthy companies can buy a licence. It's amazing, isn't it? There's been a couple of announcements today. Some company importing loads of cannabis from Israel, I think, to store in a huge warehouse in Buckinghamshire. The irony. So these companies are able to purchase a licence, a special licence that the Home Secretary has had the power to give to everybody ever since the Misuse of Drugs Act was written. So they can grow cannabis and sell it for great profit. But we can't do it for self-sufficiency and herbal independence. Could you fill that for me, please, darling? Thank you. So we, when I say we, I mean the commoners. When I say we, I mean the people of the land. Not WTU. I mean the commoners, yeah? So the common people of the land of the UK are denied the right to provide for themselves as they need to. And private companies can also pay for it and then sell to make great profits, which to me is massively unjust, and needs challenging. Imagine you're not allowed to grow your own veg, you can only buy it from a shop. So we've had decades of the government telling us cannabis is bad, touch it and we'll destroy your lives by prosecution, but now our medical cannabis is safe, buy ours, don't grow your own, or we'll destroy your lives by prosecution. I'm not sure if I'm repeating myself. Yeah, I've mentioned how my own specialist has said I should have it, but I can't. So it leaves me one other choice. Thank you, my love. So I ramble. So I've got my notes, but I'm going off them. As I've mentioned, I've been after a prescription for years. Before medical cannabis was termed in the UK, I think, my doctor, my pain specialist, agrees I should have it, agrees it helps me, but says he can't give it to me, but agrees I shouldn't be prosecuted for getting it myself. So that's what I do. I grow my own. I try. I'm not the best. It's an amazing learning curve, but unfortunately, while I was at Product Earth and the NEC campaigning, basically, whilst I was campaigning, I lost 3 seedlings. 3 of my little babies, my little ladies, I don't call them my babies because I've only got 3 babies, but 3 of my little ladies died, basically. Because I wasn't at home to tend for them, give them the love and the attention that they needed. And it's interesting because the loss of those 3 tiny seedlings, which didn't really occur to me at the time, has now left me 7 weeks now. It'll be 7 weeks now until I have my cannabis. That leaves me 7 weeks unable to access what I need to take away my pain. So not only does my specialist say I should have it, but can't give it me, and then I have to go off and fend for myself, either buying from the streets, which is a risk to my health because it's unknown quality, even the source. I could get mugged, I could get attacked, I could get stabbed, for fuck's sakes. I've got no other option but to grow my own, or continue with the pharmaceutical drugs that have nearly killed me 4 times. Needless to say, that isn't an option. I'm not willing to risk my life a fifth time for pharmaceutical drugs. And this is why WTU doesn't support a plant restriction model like the New South Wales. It's great they've got these new policies. 6 plants a household? What are you thinking? I mean, it's Australia. If you've got them in your garden, you could probably get a monster tree in Australia. Sorry, I had a bit of a signal block. Most people in the UK can't grow outside because of our inclement weather conditions, and most people choose to grow inside because they can control the environment and make sure it's just as they need it. No bugs, not too hot, all that sort of stuff. So because of the system, I've got no choice now but to risk my health further by returning to the uncontrolled and unlicensed market, not the black market. That's racist. It's important to call it unlicensed as well, because that's all it is. There's no license for it. And unregulated, uncontrolled, because they call it controlled drugs and they've got no control over them, which is a joke. So it's the uncontrolled and unlicensed cannabis market in my mind. So yeah, this is why if you've got a 9-plant model and you have failures, 3 in my case, that's 2/3 of your crop gone. If you're doing it on a perpetual cycle, like in my case, so you're always trying to have plants so you don't run out. If you have failures, you run out. You have no herb, which for me that's pain relief. For someone else it might be for a different purpose, but the purpose is irrelevant. So now I've got to have a figure out. Got to go off the street, risk my health and safety, spend my disability money on shit quality flower. Shut that door, please. On shit quality cannabis, because I'm not able to just grow as many as I need. The only stipulation should be any homegrown products should not be for sale, whether that's fruit, vegetables or herbs, or same for homebrew. I can homebrew booze and poison myself and drink myself to death, but I can't grow cannabis to make myself better. It needs challenging. I've also got this virus as well, by the way. Interestingly enough, the right to personal health and security are 2 fundamental human rights. So I shouldn't have to risk my personal security and safety by going to the uncontrolled market to procure my cannabis because I'm not able to grow my own and I'm being refused it from the health service that should be providing for me. So the only restriction must be you not selling your plants or your product, because I mean anyone isn't going to have 1,000 plants for themselves because it's more than they need. Let's be realistic. So really, you should be able to grow what you need for your own needs, or those of your loved ones. So I'm going to put that vape away because it's making my chest bad. I'm not well. Neither's Lou. Which is why we haven't been doing much. And speaking of which, the only thing holding back now the assembling of the WTU case is my body. Most of it's in my head about where we need to go and what information we need to get. But my body is holding me back. Even just this gesticulating that I've been doing is now taking its toll. I'm actually scared of going back on my laptop. I'm subconsciously scared. I've detected this subconscious fear, because I know that going back on my laptop will just cause me so much pain. So my body's scared of going back. I was at 176 actually, Martin, you're right, of going back on the laptop. I haven't even been able to read through the case studies that I collected from everybody and that you all generously gave. So they're all still on my computer. I think I've figured a way now to be able to view those on my mobile phone, which means I'll at least be able to sit on my mobile phone and scroll through and read, because that's pretty much the only device I can use at the minute, is my mobile phone and just sliding my fingers and not moving my body. The case could be assembled excuse me, through online collaboration, I actually started writing the WTU grow model or club model with one of my team the other day through Google Documents, and I was dictating, looking at my screen, and she was doing all the writing for me. And it was fantastic because I didn't have to move a muscle, but I was still able to actively do something. And that is one way that the case could be assembled, is in that way, either through a group, conference calls as well. I just feel like I'm holding that bit back now. I feel if I had a handful of able-bodied volunteers, a dedicated space and time, with laptops and printers, with me like wheeling around on a wheelie chair, just using my brain, telling them where to go, I think I could get it done. We'd have it done in a week, like, sort of thing. I've had one offer of shared office space in Wales, and also an offer of someone's home in Cornwall, where I and selected volunteers could perhaps go to do this, and that's what we need. I can't even get to Wales or Cornwall by myself, unfortunately, and Lou wouldn't be able to drive me because she'd have to stay here to care for our family. So I could have someone in my home even, but then there's that many distractions. We need somewhere really with no distractions, where no one's going to interrupt us, where we can literally get our heads down and not stop collating everything we consider evidence against cannabis prohibition, which is a lot. So if anyone's got any suggestions on there, it would be great, because that's what we've set out to do. We set out to build a case to challenge the government. Right now we've got a lot of people here. We've raised the funds for the barrister to review the case. I have been distracted by campaigning through much of the summer, but now is the time. I believe I need to not even interact with the community. I need to not be doing anything. I need to just be eyes down now. Let's get this evidence from all these different sources from all around the world. Let's get them printed off. Let's get them collated. Let's get them submitted. That's what WTU needs to be all about now. Nothing else really, because the barrister review of the case and what we present is one of the most important things. We intend to make a declaration of incompatibility between the Human Rights Act and the Misuse of Drugs Act, but I won't be able to do it alone. If the government accepts our declaration of incompatibility, they have to change the law. See you soon. A miracle could happen. We could present convincing and compelling evidence that shows undoubtedly that the prohibition of cannabis is an infringement of our human rights and harmful to the planet. I believe we can present that information. If the government refused to accept it, then we either accept their refusal and go home with the tail between our legs, or we challenge them in court, at which point we would need to fundraise. At which point, I think, judging by Leslie's fundraiser and the WTU fundraiser, we need to come up with some better ideas, because that won't cut it. Yeah, £7,000 and £8,000 won't cut it. It will cost at least 50 to 150 grand to get legal proceedings going. So if the government refuse our declaration of incompatibility, and if we have to take them to court, we're going to have some serious fundraising ideas. Also, apologies because I haven't been able to do the September raffle draw. I don't know what to say. I'm not going to make promises of doing it when I can't fulfill a promise. As soon as I'm able, I'll go through it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but writing out the tickets is too much for me. And Lou, who is my assistant, is also unwell, so she isn't able to assist, which is why we haven't been able to go ahead with it, because she always writes out my tickets. So I'm getting some mad spasms going on in my body right now. Anyway, keep your spirits high. Don't give up the fight. So our freedom and equality is what we're fighting for. We shouldn't be treated any differently to those that consume alcohol. Choosing cannabis should not be considered a crime, whether it is for medical, recreational, spiritual, creative or nutritional purposes. So whatever the purpose, you know, use your herb and make your life better. Should I go through and see if anyone said anything? Crikey. I've been waffling on for that long. Oh, I'm so sorry, people. Have a quick look. Not angry, Phil. Passionate. Okay. No, sorry, Sam. I was angry. Passionate anger, shall we call it then? Because I am angry. Anger. It's anger, man. You don't risk your own liberty, family, home, everything, unless you get angry. And anger is what made me do what I have done. Because I am angry that they have lied to the British people for so long. I'm angry that they have prosecuted people on a lie for so long. Since at least 1998 they have known the truth. I can prove it. That's 21 years of unjust prosecutions. Lives destroyed, not by cannabis, but by prosecution. That makes me angry because my brother was one of those. He's now dead. And also, I'm angry because of people like Murray Gray, denied his cannabis. Now he's got it. Look at the boy thrive. No evidence for safety and efficacy. He's your living testimony, boy. So are all the rest of us. All of us that break the law and use cannabis, we are living proof of safety and efficacy. But it's not profitable for them to see that. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Sam. I'm fucking angry, man. Yeah, I am well angry. Leslie, this law is defo very wrong. They stole my meds and left the multiple sclerosis. What does a person do? You've got no choice but to grow your own. Oh, God bless you, Leslie. Thank you for my hard work. Hard work, interesting. I'm going to talk about that. People say to Phil, thank you for all your work, Phil. I don't do any work, anyone. I don't do any work. I'm not employed, I'm not paid, I do no work. I jab my phone with my finger. That's all I do. If I can go and turn somewhere and wave a flag and shout, I'll do it. If I can go somewhere and talk on a panel, I'll do it. But I don't work for anyone. I work for freedom, maybe. Yeah, stand up for our rights. Worldwide, man. We do need to stand up for our rights. I'm just scrolling through the questions here or the comments just to see if anyone has asked. Steve Davis, he still needs to have a chat, go and see his MP. Yeah, we've got members going to try and make meetings with their MPs. I have tried this. I've tried every democratic route possible. My MP, when I asked him to look at the evidence, he told me in a very, don't you speak to me like that, I'll throw you out. You know, he got very hoity-toity on me. All I did was say, would you look at the evidence, please, Mr. Gray? And he threatened to throw me out of his open surgery. So although my meeting with my MP was what I would call a catastrophic failure, I am happy to try and liaise, facilitate, help anyone in any way I can that are going to see their MPs to raise the issue about cannabis. I'm also happy to provide any information that I have available to help you with your meetings. So Steve, give me a chat in Messenger. If I haven't given you my number already, I'll give you my number. You can give me a call. And the same goes to anyone else. Jim Finch, I think Crispin Blunt is very invested in Brexit. They're all invested in Brexit because of the tax avoidance laws. Tax avoidance. Just scrolling through the questions again. How to smoke. Someone here saying decriminalise the plant. You can't decriminalise the plant because the plant is never criminalised. It's the people who are criminalised. It's decriminalise the consumer would technically be the more correct way to say it. Sorry, but I'm a bit of a pedant. Yeah, we need to decriminalise the actions of the cannabis consumer because they are the things that are criminalised. Unfortunately, it doesn't roll off the tongue and it's not quite as good for the alliterations. So it gets shunted to the back. Thinking of signing up to the website with a minimum donation of £1 per month brings in at least 5k if everyone signs up. It's so true, Sam. If everyone donated even just £1 a week, we could actually make some real differences in the movement in some way or another. At the minute we're just shouting at ourselves because we can't get out because all the media block us. Monthly newsletters. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, we've got someone here. Once they open a shop, they're going to give discounts to WTU members as well, and highly advertise to try and get more members. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, it's been a controversial issue, actually, businesses supporting WTU. I agree with it. I think we need the support. I want to bring the consumer and the industry together so we all fight for our rights. Some people have issue against CBD shops, which is interesting, really, because CBD does provide great help to many people. A lot of people won't break the law, even though the law is nonsense. So CBD provides an option for people that won't break the law, although it is only half the option. So for me, to have shops providing discounts and donating to the cause and also advertising, it's a great thing, I think, and helps the members, helps the business, and helps the cause. Excuse me, I'm just scrolling through again, just in case anyone's asking anything. Yeah, Leslie's been handed by the police for 30 years now. Sorry. How do you become a member, someone asks. How do I become a more active member, asks Benji. That's a great question, actually, Benji. How do I become a more active member? I suppose in the first instance, there's the interacting within the Facebook community group, where the most of our interactions happen. So you could interact more. I don't know how much you interact, actually, but through discussion and dialogue within the community group, so that people can help each other, support each other, share information. And that's one of the first ways. Another way, you could actually, just by start talking about it in the public, in the post office queue, on the bus, in the taxi, wherever you go, giving out leaflets, trying to raise awareness to the group and the cause and what we're trying to do. Another way to be more active a member is to join those who write to their MPs, their police, and start writing to the officials in your areas to raise their awareness and your concerns about the unjust prohibition of cannabis. Another way to be an active member is a financial activity when members can pledge to the group whatever they afford each month. Any funds raised go all to the group aims, either making merchandise, which we give away. Nothing is sold by WTU. WTU is not a business, so won't ever have a price tag for anything. But we get stuff made to give away to other members, so it's kind of on a cycle. Donations keep it going. And that was so that WTU is, well, we're not a business, we're not after money, but we don't want to be financially exclusive either. So this way, no one's excluded. Anyone can have a t-shirt, even if they've got no money, basically. So that's why the money aspect's a tricky one. But money is needed, as I'm learning, because of publicity and advertisement and stuff like that. How else to become an active member? You could even make up a local club in your area and get your own, start reaching out to people wherever you live, draw them together, make your own club. By unity comes strength. So that's one way. Another way to become an active member, and then attend any protests, any events that you can possibly attend and be as active as possible. So that was to answer Benji's question of how do I become an active member, which I think is a very good question. This canna aid is a good idea. There we go, canna aid. I know someone's probably going to nick that idea off me because I haven't got the money to make it happen, but we need to make canna aid happen. WTU canna aid. We need to ask for volunteer musicians and artists to come and perform for people. Everything to be voluntary, and for people to pay to see it, so all the money raised could go towards the campaign. Great idea. Someone here saying they weren't aware of Leslie's case. Their Facebook moves so fast I miss stuff until it comes round again. Maybe we need a community page and websites highlighting case. That's a good idea. So rather than just a case being floating around at a space where all cases are logged so we all know where to go to check the cases. That's a good idea, Claire. You're right, and perhaps I might be guilty as well of not having shared Leslie's case fundraiser as much as I could have done myself, which I suppose is one thing that we can all do, is share in the meantime. Share, 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 share. WTU website has the blog, but it's hard to keep up with the Imagine. If you need writing blogs, let us know. Yeah, I need to start learning to write blogs on my website. If I actually wrote what I wrote in the website and then post it to Facebook, that would probably be a good idea. But I need to have a back-end lesson again. the system is fucked up. Yeah, it's totally true. Bear with me a moment, I'm just scrolling through. There you go. If I want to grow tomatoes for personal consumption, then I can. If I want to make them into a chutney and sell them to the public, then I must have a clean kitchen and follow regulations. I think the same should apply for cannabis, says Callie Blackwell. I agree the same completely. Right, I think I've got down, answered everyone's can we buy Phil a big shed. I've got nowhere to put a big shed. I need people to go in it as well to help. Bodies, we need bodies. Pangry. Ah, passionate and angry. I like it. I was pangry. Bear with me a moment. Last few, I think. Oh, I lost everything. My kids, my relationship because of this shit law. That's the injustice we're fighting, Steve. People have lost too much because of the law, not because of cannabis. Where do I live? I live in Swindon, Wiltshire. I've given enough away as it is. Might as well just come and get me. Your MP is having a breakdown and being prosecuted. Wow, crikey. Plenty of musicians smoke. Plenty of musicians do smoke, and that's why I think the Canaraid Music Festival to raise money for the campaign is quite a good idea. It's about liaising and reaching out to all these artists to try and make it happen. So if you're an artist, if you're a stage manager, if you're anything to do with the industry and you want to help make a charity event, please let us know. Okay, I feel like I've gone on for bloody ever, probably because I haven't spoke to you all for so long. I had a lot to say, so thank you for listening to me, for those that have. Excuse me. And keep fighting. Yeah, don't give up fighting. I'll update as soon as I can. Just creating the page for the cases against WTU members will be done in 20 minutes. That's going to be on our website. So we're going to have a place on our website that we can actually, people can record if they're having cases against them. They've got fundraisers, things like that. So we'll actually have one place that can be looked at, can be shared at from there. And that could actually make it easier for people to be aware of campaigns like Leslie and for them to be shared and raise money. Are you still there, Leslie? I'm not sure if you're still watching, and if you are, can you tell us, is your crowd justice or your legal fundraiser still running? Because if it is, we need to get a last push on that and try and get some raised a little bit more for you if we can. Right. I'm going to go for a smoke now. Any questions, you know where I am. Any thoughts, please send me a message, comment, and let me know. I'm going to email the solicitor and just ask him what's happening, and then I'm going to try and find a way to get the surveys on my phone so I can start reading through the surveys and do what I can. See you soon, folks. Lots of love. Keep your spirits high. Oh, I've just noticed, Leslie, you're still there. Leslie, yes, it's still running. Can you stick a copy? Can you copy and paste a link into this video thread, please, as well, Leslie? So at least the people that have been in the thread discussing it with us can go and support you there if they wish. So if you could please share the link to your crowd justice fundraiser, that would be fantastic. And then if anyone else watching this, if you can copy and paste that link, share it everywhere, stick a $5 in, just do a little bit just to try and help for the greater good. Because that is what it could do if Leslie's successful. And Leslie, please give me a call if you need any of the information I've got. I'm happy to give you everything that I have for your case, because you're fighting the fight that I would be fighting if they came through my door, which they could do at any minute. Especially after this live feed talking about my 3 dead seedlings and 7 weeks without my own cannabis. I'm going to stay on, Leslie, until you've copied that in. Oh no, you can do it after, can't you? Can you? Please copy and paste your link, Leslie, before I finish, and then I know it's in there before I switch it off. I can wait a minute and chat. Oh, God. Chronic myofascial pain from joint hypermobility spectrum disorder, in case anyone was wondering what Phil is afflicted with, which basically means my muscles and tendons feel like barbed wire every time I move my body. So rather than smooth movements, it just feels like barbed wire. Leslie must be looking for her thing. I'm sure she can share it in after and copy and paste it in. I got to go and rest. Speak soon, folks. Keep well. Thank you, Leslie. Let's share Leslie's campaign and support it as best we can for the last bit we can. Please, folks, take care.